Okay. Well, listen, thank you everybody who joined our chat room here, our breakout session. I'd like to introduce Gabe Moya, and I've had the privilege of working with Gabe also, and he is the regional financial consultant with Farm Bureau Financial Services. Gabe Moya has been in the insurance industry since 2006, and he began his career as a Farm Bureau agent and as a regional financial consultant. He specializes in financial strategies such as estate planning, retirement funding, wealth management, taxation, college funding, tax-free income strategies, as well as others. Throughout his career, Gabe has been named Agent of the Year multiple times and has earned the qualification to join the $1 Million Roundtable. This is the premier association of financial professionals. Gabe is originally from Las Cruces and hails himself a proud New Mexico Aggie. He is happily married to his lovely wife, Crystal, and has been blessed with 7 children. Away from the business, he enjoys playing and coaching baseball, golfing, horseback riding, and spending time with his family and friends. So at this time, Gabe, I'd like to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you for everybody for attending. As Rick had mentioned, my name is Gabriel Moya. I am the Regional Financial Consultant for Farm Bureau Financial Services. And basically what I'm doing is presenting a talk we call Changing Hands. Now, if you're familiar with Farm Bureau, we have several agents across the country. We are an insurance company, but we are based out of the Farm Bureau lens. We understand what it means to be out in that country, to be an ag family. So along with our insurance services, you have me, and basically I do a lot of education and planning, complex planning. And this seminar we're going to go over today is called Changing Hands. Rick has seen it before. When he did, it was longer than 30 minutes. I've never done this in 30 minutes before. So Rick, I hope you're ready. We're going to fly through this. I'll put my information on the chat box afterwards, and any questions we can field through there, you can reach out to me directly. All right, let's rock and roll. So this one is called Changing Hands, Your Legacy, Your Future. So I'm not sure where you guys stand exactly personally, but we usually invite our farmers and ranching community, people who may have these issues coming up, and some of you may know who they are. But changing hands, whether you're here as an owner, or a member of the next generation of a farmer ranch, it's never too early to start the succession planning discussion and process. This time you're going to spend with us today, we're going to show you some ways to help continue the legacy that your family has worked so hard to build. Next slide, Rick. All right, so according to FB.org, 99% of our farms in the country are still owned by families. And that almost holds true here in New Mexico. Farms that are family owned have been generational. I know I know several. I've worked with a lot of them here in the state, and we'd like to keep it that way. You know, that's a staggering statistic to have 99% of our farms that are still family owned. Go ahead, Rick. Now, here's another staggering statistic. According to FB.org, 58 years old is the average age of the American farmer. That's staggering. Why? When we look at 58 years old, you know, most people are coming close to what? Retirement. Not out in the ag, not in the ag industry. We're in our prime at this point. You know, the good years are coming on. And because of that, you know, retirement, if you ask around or if you're in these shoes, isn't really something you plan for. Most of the farmers I work with, you know, they're going to be out there until they can't be out there anymore. That's what you're born and raised to do. That's how dad did it. That's how grandpa did it. This is how we're going to roll. This is how we're going to get it done. But there is some important things that we must talk about coming up on age 58, 60, coming into retirement. So next slide, Rick. Now, according to agweek.com, 70% of farmland will transfer in the next 2 decades. Because of this statistic, it is very important to start planning for the future generation. Now, if you guys are sitting in the room with me, which we normally do, I would ask the question, how many of you have an estate plan? Some people raise their hand, some people don't. Truth is, if you're residing in New Mexico, you have an estate plan. It may not be the one that you drew up, but in the event you and your spouse were to pass away, it's a community property estate, and the state of New Mexico will decide where your assets may go, to your siblings, to your family, whatever it may be. Sometimes that's not the most favorable option. So it is important to have a conversation of setting up your estate. Now, I'm going to tell a quick story. I'm going to sidestep from our slides. And I always ask the room if they know who Joe Robbie is. That name rings a bell. Joe Robbie was the owner of and founder of the Miami Dolphins. He created the Dolphins in the 60s. Very successful businessman, a family man. We didn't say it in my introduction, but me and my wife have, well, maybe we did. We have 7 children, and if you saw my picture there was a lot more hair on my business card than there is now. That was about 4 kids ago. But going back to my story, Mr. Robbie, him and his wife had 9 children. They owned an NFL football team, and all of the children were involved in the operation. Mr. Robbie, as smart as he was, did not complete his estate planning. So he passed away in 1990, made sure his wife was going to be okay, but what he didn't plan on was her wanting more money and then dying shortly after. So when she passed away in 1991, the children had the rights to the Miami Dolphins. Should have been okay. But what they didn't plan on was a little thing called the death tax, or the estate tax, as some people call it. Now, this is part of our important conversation right now. I'm going to come back and show you why. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the death tax, there is a limit set by Congress and the IRS every year for your family and my family. If both parents were to pass away and your net worth exceeds that limit, you have to pay Uncle Sam taxes on it. This year, it's the highest it's ever been. It's 11.5 million per individual, or 23 million for family. If my family's worth $20 million and me and my wife pass away suddenly, there's no death tax. If we're worth $30 million and we passed away this year, our 7 children, we'd be $7 million over the death tax this year. And our 7 children would have to pay Uncle Sam 40% of that $7 million in 9 months, cash. So it being 11.5 this year, it's pretty unrealistic. There's not a whole lot of people who are going to be over that threshold, but it hasn't always been that high. So let's take a step back to my story with Joe Robbie. When his wife passed away in 1991, the death tax was $600,000. If they had more than $600,000, they owed Uncle Sam. Well, guess what? They sure did. And their children had to come up with $47 million for the death tax. They did not have that in cash. They didn't have it in liquid assets. So what did they have to do? They had to sell the Miami Dolphins. They had to sell the stadium that had their father's name on it. Most of us remember Joe Robbie Stadium. Do the Robbies have a share in the Dolphins anymore? They don't. They don't. Due to poor estate planning, their father's legacy has passed on, and they're no longer involved with the Dolphins. How does that affect us here in New Mexico? Well, guess what? In the financial world, what we're preparing for is this election coming up in a couple of days. If no matter what side you're on, if Mr. Biden ends up winning the White House, we can pretty much say goodbye to that $11.5 million exemption, and it's going to be minimized. And they've said it out loud, it's going to be minimized. So if you have a net worth, or if your family has a net worth, it's a good idea to start considering what would happen to our family legacy in the event we were to pass away. How can we compensate the IRS so that my children and their children are not paying taxes for us passing away? And these are some of the strategies we can help you with. So next slide. Now, 50% of farmers in the US do not have an estate plan, and they're staring down the barrel of the gun when it comes to having to sell off some properties. And I know several, and most of you probably know families who mom, dad died or dad died, and they had to sell off cows, property, equipment, and the farm is no longer functioning. We had some happen recently here in the Hatch Valley. Some of you may be familiar with a similar situation. It is very important to have this conversation with a financial professional, whether it be myself or your estate planning attorney. All right, go ahead and go on down to the next slide. Now, due to poor planning, second generation farms and ranches are staying around for 30%, third generation, 10%, and that fourth generation is actually at less than 4%. You know, a family farm and a ranch, it's not handed down as easily as a home or an heirloom. The fact is, a successful farm and ranch transfer takes careful planning. You know, without it, most family-owned farms and ranches struggle to survive beyond the first generation. It's due to lack of planning. Go ahead and go next slide, Rick. Moving along, we're going to introduce you to a family. They're the Andersons. They're a third generation farm, and most of you either know the Andersons or you are the Andersons. You've got Ruth and Ray, third generation farmers on their property. They've got 3 children. They've got Dave, Julie, and Steve. Now, Ray's been on the farm his whole life. He knows it inside and out, but he's getting ready to retire. He's thinking about hanging up the boots. Now, their son, Dave, has also stayed on the farm, and he knows that's Ray's right-hand man. He knows the farm inside and out. He knows the operations. He is the natural heir to their family farm. Now, their daughter, Julie, has moved off, and she's a teacher, and she's married, and their son, Steve, is an engineer. He's also moved off, and they come and visit, and they're fine, but Dave still lives on the property, and he's expecting to inherit the family business. Go ahead, next slide. Now, they don't have a massive operation, but it's pretty good size. 220 acres of land. Next slide. We're going to fly through these. 200 head of cattle. Go ahead. About $1 million in equipment. Go ahead. 150,000 in grain not sold. Next slide. They have about a $5 million estate. Go ahead. But their farm alone is worth $3.5 million. Next slide. Okay, so he's looking at retirement. Why start planning today? Well, it has its benefits, but there's also obstacles. When it comes to preparing to pass the family farm or ranch to the next generation, you should include strategies in 3 main areas. Go ahead. Number 1, estate preservation, making sure what you've built remains. Go ahead, next one. Retirement funding, got to be able to retire happily. And next one. The actual succession strategy. How are we going to transition to the next generation? Okay, so we're going to go back to that first topic. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Long-term care. This is an issue that affects every single one of us, whether you're in the ag community or not. Almost all of us either had a family member or know somebody who was affected by long-term care. What do I mean by that? That means getting to a certain age where you will need assistance in what you're doing on daily activity. I know it happened in my family. It's still happening in my family. My grandfather passed at 96. His wife is 96 currently and under assistance. So it's not cheap, and it can be quite a burden when it comes to living daily life. So next slide, please. Okay, so 69% of Americans who reach age 65 will use some sort of long-term care services. The costs for long-term care healthcare continue to increase and can quickly consume your income. and ultimately hurt your family farm itself. The annual costs of these facilities or homes is anywhere from $45,000 to $100,000, and the average stay is 3 years, depending on the location and level of your care. If you don't have a plan to deal with these expenses, the income from your farm could potentially be diverted to provide for your care, and any shortfall, are going to have to be covered by liquidating assets of the farm itself, or basically placing the future of your operation in peril just to cover the expenses for long-term care. So in the insurance industry, there's a few ways to deal with it. You can purchase a long-term care policy, which is what's been done for generations. But those, quite frankly, have their pros and cons. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Rick. The pros, there's a pool of money in the event you end up needing care. You pay money when you're younger, and when you need this money, guess what? It's there, and it's what it was built for, and it's a godsend when you use it. I've witnessed it. But here's the cons with traditional long-term care. What if you buy a policy and never get sick? Pass away peacefully in your bed on your own terms, a fulfilled life. You never get sick. You lose all of the money that you put into it. Do I stand by them? I do. I've seen them save families, and I've also seen families lose everything because of lack of planning. But these aren't the only options anymore. We do have different versions, which are not use it or lose it, which I'd be glad to go over with you guys, but we're short on time, so we're going to move along to the next slide. Okay, so the all-important retirement funding. If you end up going down the retirement road, we look at some very important questions. Number one, will your retirement strategy provide you with sufficient financial security? Number two, what income sources will you have available in retirement? Number three, what risks is your income going to be subject to? And number four, how might taxes affect your retirement income? Now, without proper planning, you may be forced to delay or completely abandon your retirement dreams. We ask you to limit your you want to limit your liabilities, but you also want to enjoy your retirement. So I do a whole other seminar that we call Retire at Zero. I don't have time to dive into it here, but we look at different avenues of being able to put money away, grow money, and pay zero income taxes when we pull it out. It's very, very, very popular in our farm and ranch communities because of the freedoms inside of it. But I'd be really glad to talk to you guys about that more at another time. Go and go to the next slide, Rick. Okay, the all-important slowing down. We want to establish a timeline. When would you like to slow down? We want to determine your needs. How much income do you want and when? Next one, Rick. Okay, now also important, the cash flow. Whenever we visit and consult, we basically talk about different techniques, being able to generate income. Some of those techniques include we're going to do a retirement income analysis. We'll do some asset allocation and diversification. We're going to look at the impact of donating land or business equipment or crops to a device called a charitable remainder trust, which is very, very, very important and pretty strategic, which is a pretty neat trust. And then we look at your risk protection. The risk protection, make sure there's no gaps in your coverage that would cause a major loss and derail your retirement path. Before I move on, I'm going to jump back into this charitable remainder trust briefly and talk about how that's used as a strategy. Doing this as long as I have here in New Mexico, quite often, many of the people I visit will have a common saying, land rich and cash poor, right? So using a charitable remainder trust is a device which we bring in an attorney, but it's a way to turn your tangible assets into a tax-free stream of income. Not only does it do that, I just lost my lights. There we go. Not only does it generate a tax-free income stream, but it can also sidestep a little thing called stepped up basis. So many of our farmers and ranchers have land that they either inherited or their grandfather sold it to them for $50 an acre. And if they were to try to resell at $2,000 an acre, you're looking at quite a bit of capital gains tax. Well, using a charitable remainder trust is a way to sell off those properties and completely avoid paying any kind of capital gains tax. And again, these are things we can help you guys set up, not only to help pad your retirement as income, but help avoid those taxable burdens that you've been dodging for a long time, because nobody wants to pay Uncle Sam more than they're due. Okay, let's go to the next screen, Rick. Okay, addressing the shortfall. Again, this is just kind of talking about planning around Social Security, making sure you're not paying more taxes than you are due. Again, we combine our other seminar, Retire at Zero, about strategically pulling out so much money at a time. That way you can stay at the zero tax bracket or the lowest tax bracket possible. These are all strategic conversations we have looking at your assets. We'll go to the next screen. We're running short on time. Go ahead and go to the next one, Rick. All right, so the succession planning. Some questions that need to be asked. What am I protecting my assets from, and how do I do that, both before and after I die? And what happens when mom or dad die unexpectedly, if you're looking at from the younger generation? What happens when my kids who are actively engaged in the farming process predecease me or become disabled, or if they become divorced? These are all things we have to plan against. How will fees and taxes affect my estate? And I kind of went over that earlier with the death tax. And the all important question, how do I treat my kids fairly when I'm gone? Go ahead and go to the next slide, Rick. Okay, so the all important question, equal to all. We're going to go over 3 quick strategies, different scenarios where Ray and Ruth, when they die, would be able to give their farm to their children. And these all hold true in New Mexico. So if they had no plan whatsoever here in New Mexico and Ray and Ruth go for a drive and they don't make it home, their $5 million estate is going to be chopped up 3 equal ways. Equally to their children. So on paper, it's not terrible. But when you look at their individual lifestyles, Dave, the one who lives there, who's supposed to be working on the farm, he's going to be disappointed. He is now the minority on the family farm. They each got an equal share. He's looking at maybe losing the business, his job, the only job he's known. He's facing an uncertain future. Not really fair to Dave, even though, they all got the same amount of assets. Go ahead and go to the next story, the next slide, please. Okay, so some estate planning tools to avoid this scenario. We look at gifting, we look at setting up power of attorneys, both general and medical. We look at establishing some advanced directives. Upon death, we look at setting up some last will and testaments, making sure your beneficiary designations are proper, transfer on death deeds, and we absolutely look at setting up a trust, revocable or irrevocable, just to try and make sure your wishes are going to happen. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so let's look at a couple of scenarios here since we're running low on time. This scenario is giving the farm straight to Dave and then giving the cash assets, which they have $3.5 million in a farm and another 1.5 in cash and investments. So if we gave just the farm to Dave and then gave $750,000 to each of the other children, it could work, but they may not be pleased. Julie and Steve, their family was worth $5 million, and they may not be happy. They honestly might not be happy the fact that they didn't get a big share. And that does happen more often than not. It doesn't bode well whenever the family is worth X amount of dollars and you're not getting your share. So that being said, Dave still gets to work on the farm, but his siblings aren't going to be too thrilled. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay. So here's the other theory that a lot of estate planners would try and do, estate equalization. So if Dave needs that farm, he's got to get that farm at $3.5 million. Well, I love all my children. I want them all to have $3.5 million. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So in order to make that happen, mom and dad take out a $5.5 million life insurance policy. Along with their $1.5 million in assets, that's $7 million. When they die, they're going to hand Julie $3.5 million. They're going to hand Steve $3.5 million. And Dave gets the family farm worth $3.5 million. Now, they did put it inside of what's called an ILET, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But looking at their family dynamic, you know, Julie and Steve became multimillionaires in this scenario. Meanwhile, Dave, who's been working to make that farm happen his whole life, he gets a $3.5 million farm. He gets drought, you know, he gets, you know, sweat. He's got to work for a living. I don't see him too thrilled with his siblings being multimillionaires and him having to keep the family business going without his best friend, without his dad for the rest of his life. So not the ideal scenario. But let's go back to the ILET portion. Before we look at the children, why did they put that $5.5 million inside an ILET? The ILET stands for Irrevocable Life Insurance Trust. That ILET is holding that life insurance policy and shielding that $5.5 million from what? The federal death tax, like we talked about earlier. So another strategic tool where you can hand tax-free money to your family and not have them pay Uncle Sam on it. And these are more details we can go over. Very inexpensive to do this, but whenever you're looking at leaving a large amount of money to your siblings or your heirs, and you don't want Uncle Sam to stick his hand in it, you can be shielded using a device such as an ILET, which we can help you with. Next scenario, next slide, please. Okay, so far we've done equally to all three, where Dave doesn't get the ranch. We did estate equalization, where Dave gets the farm and ranch, but his siblings also get compensated in the same manner. We're gonna do number 3. This one is called a family buy-sell agreement. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the buy-sell agreement, it's basically an agreement between business partners. If you have a successful business with your partner because you have your skills and they have their skills and together it's successful, we look at it as protecting that partnership. So Rick, since you've been here, I'm gonna pick on you and say me and you have a donut business, okay? You are the chef, you're the whiz, you're absolutely gorgeous in the kitchen, you're brilliant. And I am on the business side. I'm bringing customers in, we're marketing, we're bringing it in, and we are making money. Let's say we're at $1 million value in 6 months. Just outstanding. Now, we did not take any kind of precautions. We did not do a buy-sell agreement. So what does that mean? I own 50%, you own 50%. Now, one day I'm out marketing and I get hit by a bus. Wasn't looking where I was going. You are now partners with my wife. She's the sweetest girl in the world. You'd love her, she'd get along, but here's what's gonna happen. She's gonna help you in the kitchen. She might even redecorate, okay? She's not gonna be out in the street. She's not gonna be out bringing people in because that's not her specialty. You now have a decline in the business model because we didn't prepare. What should we have done? We should have established a buy-sell agreement, and what we could have done was set up separate life insurance policies to cover this. Now, when I got hit by that bus, we already had a life insurance policy in force, and a nice fat $500,000 check was going to be left to you. And our buy-sell agreement says you will write my wife a $500,000 check to buy out your portion of the business. You now own your business at 100%. You lost your partner, but you get to make all the decisions, and you had capital to buy out the partner's family. That is a buy-sell agreement. That's what it's for. It works the same way in a family. Now we're going to take a look at this family buy-sell agreement. Looking at the assets, the farm is $3.5 million, but they also have cash assets of 1.5 for a grand total of $5 million. If we cut that 3 ways, they would all get $1.67 million. Next slide, Rick. And we're coming up on the end here. So here's what the family can do in this buy-sell agreement. Instead of that $5.5 million life insurance policy, which might have been kind of pricey, they're going to opt out for a smaller life insurance policy. okay? So what they want to do is make sure that Dave keeps the farm, but they also want to give their children quite a bit of money. So they took out a $2.3 million life insurance policy. So follow me on this. There's 3 children and they have $1.5 million in cash assets. Chop that up 3 ways, they're each going to get $500,000. They also took out that $2.3 million life insurance policy, and they left their son Dave, the farmer, as the beneficiary on that 2.3. So when they die, it goes to him, and he in turn gets to hand his sister $1.16 million. He hands his brother $1.16 million. He keeps the farm. So while they're all compensated, Dave is going to get the farm and $500,000 out of their parents' assets. Their sister is going to get $1.16 million from the life insurance policy, along with $500,000 from their assets. Same with their brother Steve. He gets $1.16 million life insurance plus $500,000. That scenario right there is not equal. Go ahead and go to the next slide for me. Oh, that's the last one. So that scenario is not monetarily equal, but the family farm stays in the business unscathed. Dave gets $500,000 in operating monies, whatever he needs there, from his parents' estate. Meanwhile, both his siblings got almost $1.7 million of cash. And if they can get any decent investment person, they can turn that into quite a bit of money. But that scenario there, with a little bit of strategic planning, avoided taxation and also made sure their family farm was not in limbo because of an untimely death. Now, these are just different ideas and scenarios we can help you guys with, and I'm running long on time already, I can see that. But here at Farm Bureau, this is what we do on a daily basis. We'd be glad to visit with any of you at any time, or if you know of anybody who may be staring at this scenario. This is exactly what we do for our members. A lot of people do not know that we operate this way, or we even have these options available. But I really appreciate you guys inviting me on here. And if there's any future discussions or questions, I'm going to put my information in the chat box, or you feel free to ask me questions there. But you can always reach out to me and either email me, or we can visit. I am based out of the Albuquerque area, but I am all over the state all of the time. Every week I'm in a different part of the state, and I'd really like to visit with you and see how we can help make sure your guys' family legacy stays where it is supposed to be. So again, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for having me, and we'll talk to you soon.